IONIQ Information.
This week there was a public holiday in the UK and I was on the road again in the Hyundai IONIQ Electric to see an old friend who I hadn't seen in a while because it had become difficult to get there in my Nissan LEAF 24 kilowatt hour. A lot easier now this time in the Hyundai IONIQ Electric. Usual issues on this long trip of about 360 miles, so over 500 kilometers of ecotricity charges, which I used this time again, with not knowing if they were working and various things around getting up and if they're available when you arrive at them, and does the app say the right status. Generally it all worked. Most of them were on free vend. They defaulted away from using the app for payment, so it was very cheap. It cost me about £2.10 sterling for this 360 mile round trip to see my friend. Also in the trip we took in some sights and sounds at Wrest Hall, which is an English heritage site and had been a hospital during the World Wars. There were some recreations there with people in soldiers' uniforms and guns and other things that I wasn't expecting. So that was interesting to see, and it was in beautiful grounds. Also, we managed to go to the Milton Keynes EV Experience Centre, which is in a shopping centre in the centre of Milton Keynes in the UK, and has been featured on the Fully Charged show quite recently. Outside the EV Experience Centre there were all sorts of different cars. As you can see here, there was the Nissan LEAF, the old Nissan LEAF as well, a Renault Zoe, a BMW i3, which actually was another vehicle I was considering before getting the Hyundai IONIQ Electric, and a number of Volvo EV hybrids, I presume, that I don't really know very much about. And they had available for a short test drive the new Nissan LEAF, the 40 kilowatt hour LEAF. I hadn't driven one before. I'd sort of been outside one and looked in through the windows and things of them, so I thought this was an interesting opportunity to test what was it like, and how did it compare to the second-hand Hyundai IONIQ Electric. So we set off in the new Nissan LEAF. I noticed first of all that the steering wheel didn't adjust in and out like it does on the Hyundai IONIQ Electric, but that was reasonably okay. The seating position was fine and I got comfortable fairly quickly. The main thing I noticed on the drive was that it's a lot more powerful than my old Nissan LEAF 24 kilowatt hour version used to be. And this was confirmed by one of the kind assistants from the EV Experience Centre, actually, that most people spot, that it's got quite a lot of power and a good pickup. It felt a bit like the sport mode in the Hyundai IONIQ Electric, but perhaps even more powerful than that. And generally it handled very well. We tried the Pro Pilot, the sort of assisted steering cruise control, smart cruise control, on a little bit of A road at 70 miles an hour. On a loop out from the EV Experience Centre, but the car didn't have the Pro Pilot parking, so we weren't able to try that. There was a bit more wind noise than I was expecting, although this could have been a defect of the car, because they said they might be sending that particular model back to Nissan to have a look at. And generally, apart from the whole sort of rapid gate coverage that's been going on in the UK, particularly around the sustained rate of rapid charging that the Nissan LEAF can handle on longer trips, because it doesn't have any active battery cooling, it's just passive cooling, so it can kind of overheat, and apparently there's some software limitation on the charging rate. Generally I get a feeling that the new Nissan LEAF is going to bring a lot of people into electric cars. The boot was very, very large. I was very surprised by that, so I can imagine families and people who need to transport large items finding that very useful. The car itself inside was spacious and reasonably well specified and comfortable and so on. The power might impress and amuse a lot of people because the pickup is almost instant. I found the e-pedal, so the sort of combined brake and regen feature when you lift off the accelerator pedal, so you can drive the car more or less on one pedal. I found that very, very intuitive, very quick to get used to, very enjoyable, and very very usable on all sorts of different roads. I did have one occasion where I had to add braking in to the e-pedal because it didn't stop quick enough. But generally I found that was a really good feature, and again, the kind of thing that might sort of bring people into the car, make it stand out, and alongside the added power, that gives it a very nice drivability. So the one thing I think that the Hyundai IONIQ Electric is quite evenly matched with it actually is the range. So when I set off in this kind of warmer weather that we've been having the past few weeks in the Hyundai IONIQ Electric, we had about 160 something miles showing on the gauge, went up to about 167 miles at 100% at one point, and it's continued actually to be very high. You can see here that I've seen even 8.3 miles per kilowatt hour in recent days with the warmer weather on my typical commute into work, which, as I've made the video about before, is downhill, but other figures in the low to high 7 miles per kilowatt hour as well. So, you know, the IONIQ seems fairly well matched to the range of the LEAF, at least in warmer weather and in sort of normal driving conditions, a mixture of fast and inner city driving. And I think the car was showing about 123 miles predicted range at about 92% when we set off from the EV Experience Centre, and we got it down to about 87%, and it dropped to 100 and something, still in three figures, 110, 111. So my sense was it's either maybe, you know, almost the same as the kind of IONIQ Electric in terms of overall range, possibly even a bit less actually in some circumstances, and certainly not the kind of efficiency that the IONIQ Electric has, but of course it does have a bigger battery, 40 kilowatt hours compared to 28 kilowatt hours in the Hyundai IONIQ Electric. Overall though, I think the experience of driving the new Nissan LEAF was a very positive one for me, because I can easily recommend the car to people. It's a very usable electric car, and some of my negative preconceptions that I'd picked up from YouTube videos and other kind of forums and things were wiped away actually by the experience of driving it. You know, it's maybe not as much of a leap as some people wanted, including myself. I should say I had a deposit down actually on one of the LEAF 2.0s, which I cancelled. It was a refundable deposit. I cancelled it because I couldn't get a decent price. It was a good sort of £150 a month more than the Hyundai IONIQ Electric option. But, you know, if people can afford it, if they can get a good price, I think they're getting a good car that's going to accelerate, you know, electric car adoption. So I was happy to have had a chance to go in it. My thanks to the team at the EV Experience Centre in Milton Keynes. If you have a chance to pop in there, you know, go in, try out some electric cars. It's free. It's a great experience. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're not on commission. So it's a good place to experience it, maybe for the first time. And yeah, overall a very positive experience, and you know, a decent car. So. Okay, I think that's everything for this episode. We'll be making more videos soon, and thanks for watching. Bye now.